Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hi everyone, the Mimi and Greg Show is back today. It's like coming home when I chat with Greg Rucka. We catch up on all things Lazarus. Greg discusses his writing process and the challenges he has to overcome while finishing the final arc of the next issue. If you haven't read Lazarus yet, skip ahead to about 25 minutes into the conversation. We discuss the Old Guard 2 and possibly 3, so listen on if you're interested in the movie that starred Charlize Theron and Kiki Lane. We also discuss the Olympics and mental health. We are both in awe of the women like Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka that have set an extraordinary precedent for others. I am grateful for the privilege and honor of being a part of these conversations with Greg. He has become a dear friend whose opinion I value and company I absolutely enjoy. Not to mention, he writes my favorite comic book, Lazarus. Please, if you haven't started yet, give it a try and let me know what you think. For those that don't already know, Greg Rucka is a New York Times bestselling author of hundreds of comics and nearly 24 novels. He is also the writer for the critically acclaimed film, The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron. I'm loving these conversations and hope you are too. If you are, please rate my podcast on your platform of choice and share it with others. If you would like to support with a donation to help keep this podcast going, you can become a patron of the show by visiting my website or patreon.com. For comments or suggestions, email me at sifumimichan@gmail.com or reach out on social media at sifumimichan. Now on with the show. Hello, Greg.
Hey, Mimi, how you been?
Oh my goodness. Well, I miss you. It's been several weeks, but I know that means you've been writing. Yes?
Yeah, kind of. It hasn't been going well.
Oh.
I am, I think I'm now on week 4 of, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm on week 4 of the script for Lazarus Risen 7. And I made it to page 13 yesterday. I think I have rewritten the first 13 pages. I've lost count. I mean, I've genuinely lost count.
Oh, wow.
And I know everything that I want to do with this issue. I know where it's ending. I know where I'm going. I know that once I get to a certain point in the issue, it's gonna break like a destroyed dam, and the last however many pages are gonna write very quickly because they're pre-written in my head.
Right.
But the scene sequence, I guess, that I'm working with right now is the culmination of every issue prior, kind of. Like it's 6 hasn't come out yet, so I can't.
Right. And literally this is going to release the day before 6 releases. So this is going to go out on August 17th. So tomorrow, everyone will know.
Of the few Lazarus fans who hear this and then read it, they'll go, ooh, and it will make sense.
Yes.
But yeah, it's, this thing is kicking my ass.
Oh.
I mean, it's just kicking my ass. And Michael, thankfully, had his birthday yesterday, so he's sort of like, "No, I finished the issue. I finished it. I'm catching my breath. I got to do a bunch of stuff around the house and so on." But we are about to cross the point where he's going to say, "Where's the script?"
Yeah.
And I'm going to say, "I've got 13 pages, but I don't want to release them to you because I may rewrite them all again."
Yeah. But Mike will understand.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll understand. Michael is very understanding, but I also suspect he will be somewhat cranky about it, which he has every reason to be.
But
it's he and I had conversation as he was wrapping up 6, and I think we'll see once I'm able to give him the full script to 7. But I think once 7 is done, we're going to take a little break, because at that point I did the math. I think there are only 264 pages left to go, which is 6 more issues of Risen.
Right.
And Michael has proposed more than once, well, maybe we should just do it as a graphic novel or 2 graphic novels or whatnot. We'll see. Our floppy numbers are not great, because most people, our floppy numbers aren't great because we have no schedule. Try as we might, the book does not come out anything close to regularly.
Yeah.
Most people prefer reading it in trade, and I can't blame them. And I'm not on social media, so there is no promotion. There's no real effective promotion of the book when a new issue drops. But that being said, right, it occurs to me that may sound like a woe is me. It's not a woe is me. What it means, and one of the nice things about working with, say, an Image versus, say, a DC or a Marvel, where the book would have been taken out behind the shed, put in the back of its head and then buried so deep the bones are never found.
Yeah.
Image is patient, and Image understands, with the track record of the book, that, any red in accounting that we're getting on the single issues, we will recoup in trades. We have done very well in trades. So the danger is not, oh my God, we're not going to be able to finish it. It's simply figuring out what's the best way to do it. I am somewhat romantically attached to the periodical format, and I actually quite like our quarterly format. I like being able to say, this is a substantial number of pages here. Yeah. It's got a lot of content. I love being able to include the short fiction and things like that. So, we'll see. We will see.
And I know you've described it before, because this is kind of big culmination. It's a good kind of breaking point. It's got all this build.
Well, the storyline's called Fracture. I mean,
yeah. And is that, though, the challenge of why it's been, such a hardship for you? Or is it literally because, the world's gone shit and everything around it is not helping? And there's
I'm actually doing better on the mental health front as far as that goes. Okay. Like, if I was trying to write this 8 months ago, I wouldn't even bother. I would just be like, I'm going to go play Farm Bill or, Ghost of Tsushima or anything to remove me from the world I am in.
Right.
I know I am carrying a lot of dread and stress and existential angst. And I know, this is me as an object lesson. I don't know anybody hearing this, will go, oh yeah. I had a doctor's appointment on Monday, right? I'm diabetic. I have adult onset type 2. And I went in to see my doctor to get my A1C checked. And the last time I had been in, it was pretty good. It had been trending down. And that was 6 months ago. And I have been really diligent about my diet. I've been very careful about, I don't do sweets that much anyway, but it's the carbs that'll kill you. So, I've been very good about protein.
And walk.
I've been running. I've been running a lot. I'm running on average 20 to 25 miles a week, not counting the walking.
Right.
Okay. So as far as I am concerned, in the main, I'm making all the right lifestyle choices. And I went in and they take my vitals and they take my A1C, and my blood pressure was up from last time. And my A1C had climbed again. Now, some of that, right, is just the way the body deals with certain things. But I'm talking to the doctor and she says, well, stress is a contributing factor.
Yeah.
And looking at that blood pressure in particular, which shouldn't have been that high.
Right.
And then sort of going, there's been a lot of stress. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress. I'm suffering some stress. That said, I'm not finding it getting in the way creatively. It's not getting in the way of the creativity.
Okay.
The problem I am having with this script is, and now we're gonna, for the writers out there, the people interested in process, this is not the problem of what am I going to do, right? That's not the problem. And the problem isn't even how am I going to do it? The problem is in technique and execution. I know what I want to do. And the issues now are doing it in a way that is engaging, efficient, entertaining, and provides all the information needed. There are tons of questions that the series has posed that are answered in this issue and in this scene specifically.
Oh, okay.
But it's bad writing if a character simply says, I am now just going to give you a whole bunch of exposition. Right?
Yeah.
And
I've heard you call it lazy writing in the past.
Yeah. Well, and it's referred to in certain writers' rooms as holding the dummy stick. You know, it's literally a character who says, wait a minute, explain this to me. Right? What's going on? And if the audience has been paying any attention whatsoever, they should be able to answer that themselves. But the character asks that so that it can be presented or restated or reframed for the audience. And at this point in the series, for better or for worse, if this is the first issue somebody picks up, sorry, you're going to be lost. And if I was working at a Marvel or a DC, that would be a huge problem.
I see. Okay.
But
you're not.
We're doing a series that, like I say, the people who are picking up these issues are the people who picked up the last issue.
Yes.
Right.
And the first one.
Yeah. So they're gonna get it, or at least have the capacity to go back and refresh and get answers. But like I say, it's a question of there are certain things that I want the audience to see here. I want to explain certain things. There's a whole backstory here. You know, it's not me tipping my hand too much to say, like, you get to see a pre-X world in this issue.
Oh, okay.
You get to see Malcolm and Hawk and these other people. This is, you know, it is an answer to a large part of how did we get here? And implicit in that is also, why are we here? Right? Because throughout the series, we've known that Malcolm has been the architect of this world. Right. This world is primarily his fault. Right.
Yes. Yes.
He may not be responsible for what the Martins family is doing, or the Carragher family is doing, or Vasilovka, but he absolutely engineered a situation that allowed all of this to happen. And he did so very, as it has been implied, if not outright stated, very deliberately, right? And I believe there's a line in 6 that I'm really, there's a conversation, a conversation, argument, shouting match, dialogue between Malcolm and Johanna in 6 that I'm very fond of, where she basically blows up at him for something she has done. And she says, you can't keep doing this to me. I'm either head of the family or I'm not.
Yeah. And
Malcolm gets sullen and makes a comment about how you have no idea what Jacob Hawk wants. And Johanna says, but you do, then tell me, right? There's a plan. And there's a break, some other stuff happens, and then Johanna gets a piece of information. She goes up to Malcolm's room and basically, slams the door open and says, you knew, right? Because Malcolm once again says, this is what they want. These are the terms. These are who needs to be there. And she says, so you knew. And Malcolm loses it. I mean, he actually, it's the first time I think in the series we see him shouting. But he actually says, I am so sick of it. I am not, despite my reputation, omniscient, right? I calculate the odds. I read the table. I'm very good at it. And then I place my bets. But Johanna's response to that is but that's not what you do. You load the dice. To which Malcolm says, yes, of course I do. I play to win. So a lot of this sequence in part is the extension of that as well. And now we have spent 20 minutes talking about an issue of Lazarus that nobody's going to see for quite a while. But the thing is, like I say, 7 is the end of a huge movement in the story. We have been building to the events in this issue. And like I say, I know how the issue ends. I know what the back half of this issue looks like.
Yeah.
These first 20 odd pages are just, it isn't pulling teeth. It's literally every panel is finding a needle in a haystack. It is going grindingly slowly. And
sounds like a novel.
Yeah.
Prose.
Yeah. Or more precisely the way Jen writes her prose, because Jen writes like she is laying brick.
Right. Yeah. You said it's like a mosaic.
It is. Everything is very precise. Normally I've got it and I can just go boom and then go back and be like, oh, that's wrong. Let me fix that. And right now, so we're done with this. We're having another heat warning here. So I'm gonna, when we're done talking, I get to go to the store and get ice and some groceries, and then I'm back to work. And hopefully, if all goes well, I'll make it to page 15 today.
I'll be cheering you on.
There's a great, I think it was Stephen King in Dance Macabre talks about, when you start working on a story, what you are doing is I think it's King. It's been a while, but I think the metaphor he uses is you're assaulting a castle. You're trying to find your way into the story. Right. And sometimes that means you got to scale the walls, and sometimes that means you've got to blow a hole in them, and sometimes that means you go through the gate, and sometimes you got a tunnel underneath. But that's exactly what's happening with this issue. It is just sheer bloody mindedness. I will eventually get this to go, and I am going to get it to go because it has to go. It has to go, because if it doesn't go, the series ends. There's never an issue 8.
Oh no, it's gonna go. It's gonna go.
So,
let's say, what do you need? What can I send you?
So if nothing else, I have the faith that I will figure it out. And
I do as well. And so do all your fans. I mean, trust me, everybody is patiently waiting. I mean, I'm on your Discord and I don't even feel people when you're like, oh, it's coming out in June. No, July, no,
August. No.
Everyone's cool with it though. Cause like, Greg, you do you, and if they're listening to our podcast, they know like, okay, look, there's a lot been going on.
I got a letter from somebody saying, you guys need to look up the definition of quarterly. I was like, man, I don't know what to tell you. But they're like, you haven't done it once. I was like, that's not true. Our first four hit our deadline.
Yes.
And, and then the wheels came off. And it's like, well, and that's, again, one of the reasons why Michael and I have talked about this. We get through this.
Yes.
We'll get 7 done. Mm-hmm. And then we get to sort of do a reset and figure out how to approach the end, because we both see the end coming. And I want to end this damn story. And that's not me saying I want it over with. Right. I want to be able to end it.
Yes.
So there's been that. And then there are a couple other things I've been working on. A project that I guess we had started thinking about in 2019. Mm-hmm. My collaborator on that's come back to life.
Okay.
And is kind of exciting. And then there's a project that Troutman and I had been wanting to do since, I want to say, at least 2016. And we just could never find the right collaborator for it. And Mike Henderson is going to be drawing that. And first issue is drawn now. Oh, okay. And second issue is underway. And then there's this thing I'm working on with Rick Burchett. And the first issue of that is done. And so I need to write the second. So a whole bunch of stuff is starting to move. And then there's film stuff going on. Right? Yes. There's all the other media stuff. So it's not like I'm just sitting around.
Oh, no. And we know this. We know this. I mean, of course, like several months ago, everyone's like, so what's up? Old Guard 2. And then Charlize dropped her little variety, blurb, and everybody's excited about that.
And Netflix still hasn't made an official announcment.
And Netflix still doesn't want to make an official announcement, but we all know what's up.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose something can happen. That means it won't occur. Right now, we're looking at filming starting in around middle of 22. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, it's I think it's going to happen.
I think it's going to happen, and that's exciting. Especially
don't know where we're going to film yet, but
All right. Well, let me know and I'll pack for it appropriately. Okay. Right. I've been inviting myself to all sorts of sets lately. I've been talking to the cast of Warrior. And so I'm totally going to South Africa next year. So I'm pretty excited about that. And, I've got to just kind of work my schedule, but I will absolutely make time for
if all goes well, you could just make it all one run.
Yeah.
It's just
I'm
one
down.
Location. Yeah.
Yes. Because I'm due some travel. I'm itching to travel. So I'm ready.
Well, and again, the COVID of it all. Yes. Right. I mean, I was going to do the Lakes Festival in the UK and had to cancel on that. I mean, because Jen will be in recovery at that point from this surgery that she's going to have. And I'm sure I could have gotten somebody into backstop while I was away for a week. But the concern of if I come back and I'm carrying the bug and she's recovering from this procedure, that's can't take that risk.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I mean, it's just so crazy out there right now. I mean, hello, I'm in Florida, so we all know what that means. I mean, just ridiculousness. But
I saw your use of Governor Death Santis. I I hadn't seen that before. But
that's a Florida thing. That's been since that's even before COVID, ironically.
Yeah, well, he's earned it.
Yes. But I did want to mention, especially with Old Guard, and of course, congrats on all of the recognition you've been getting this year. You had the Eisner nod, and then you of course, with the Old Guard, you had like the Nebula, the Hugo, the Harvey. I mean, there's all these things I've been seeing pop up. And so it makes sense Old Guard's going to go forward because it's gotten so much,
That's
recognition, exciting. Right?
Yeah, this feels like it's always a bridesmaid, never a bride year with regards to that.
Yes.
But it is, it's gratifying, and it's really gratifying. I mean, look, the fan base, certainly for the movie, if not for the comic as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're still there. I got a tweet texted to me from Mark Evans, who's the producer.
Mm-hmm. Producer, yeah.
From an account that I believe is literally like, where's the Old Guard 2? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, that's the name of the account, and it was a lovely little string of tweets basically saying, it was, I guess, a list had been released, saying it's, it's the same as these other movies or what. And this person was very indignant at that, was like, no, it is not. Mm-hmm. This is a different thing. It is a different kind of movie. My 2 is very much a part 2 of 3.
Okay.
So we will see. There are going to be notes. There's going to be revisions. We'll see what the final form of it looks like. Mm-hmm. But I am very confident about it right now.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, it's not just your fans. Also, you have a lot of critics, and you've had a lot of, I don't know what they're called, associations, award, organizations that have recognized it. And so very cool. From different aspects, not just the acting and the stunts, but the writing specifically as well, which is pretty freaking cool, being that's like really neat. Your first screenplay. I mean, I know we all know you're a writer, but as you've mentioned so many times on this show, it doesn't mean because you can write comics, you can write prose, and it can mean you write, screenplays, can mean you write poems. I mean, it doesn't always translate, and
they're all different skill sets.
Yeah, and you're able to kind of nail all of them, which is what's kind of remarkable about Mr. Greg Rucka.
That is very kind of you.
True. I am all about that.
There are plenty of people out there who disagree with you.
Well,
let's leave it at that.
Let them talk to me about that. All right. Let them disagree with me.
Those are battles that you are welcome to fight.
I shall.
I'm just going to stay here. But yeah,
I shall. But I did want to, you touched on earlier, we were talking about mental health. We've talked about mental health a lot on this show. And it has been really on my mind lately, especially just seeing, who has now become, the poster woman for mental health, which is Simone Biles, and just seeing her bravery. And I think it's phenomenal that I've seen mostly a 99% outpour of support. And then there's the 1% asshole who's like, oh, what if, this is like Michael Jordan pulling out of game 7 in a finals, and it was kind of like mocking, and he got shut down immediately, of course, because people reminded him that, Michael Jordan actually did retire because of mental health for a moment. And that, anyways, but just the fact that we're kind of finally seeing in the mainstream through these incredible, I will say, women,
That's
because like Simone Biles,
incredibly brave.
Yes, and also, oh my gosh, I can't believe her name is escaping me. The tennis player. Wow, this is embarrassing, but they're like, yeah, I'm Osaka, right? I'm just not going to do it, right? I'm not going to put myself in the situation where I will put everything else above my mental health, regardless of what it is.
Well, and I think that there is something. Okay, one, yes, 100%. Two, the importance of public figures stepping up and being able to say publicly, you don't own me, you don't have a right to me, I get to make my decision, is a direct refutation of the culture that we have created in the last 10, 15 years with social media, that says that we own celebrities.
Yeah.
That if you are in any way in a public sphere, I am allowed to say to you whatever I want, right? And I don't have to suffer any repercussions. And that the corollary to that is that if you are Simone Biles, you have to stand there and take it. When in point of fact, no, you don't. You never did. And that is, I think, absolutely part of that mental health, right? It is the ability not just to advocate for yourself, but to recognize where that advocacy needs to lie. I think my daughter came downstairs yesterday and she was so happy that these women had been able to say these things.
Yeah.
You put it in the context of everything that's going on in the world. And it's like, yeah, about time, you know?
Yeah.
How anybody right now is not, well, no. We know how some people right now are going, no, my mental health is fine. Other people have broken entirely. And all of us, you know, who have been remotely trying to live our lives have been suffering to varying degrees. And as we so often talk about, advocate for self-care. You have to take care of yourself.
Yeah. I was just really frustrated for her as well, because it was like, and it was, again, the 1%. And of course it's going to get visual on on the social and on the media because he was saying something mean, but it's like the layers of not just the pressure of being like the greatest of all time gymnast and all of that, but like the fact that she was literally battling against the Olympic officials, the American Olympic officials, and USA Gymnastics, which was covering up abuse of so many people, and that she's now become the one that has the weight on her shoulders because she's the only one left in the game, right? Of course, all these other wonderful gymnasts, Ali Raceman, all of them have helped, but I'm saying like she was carrying that with her too, right? And it's like, you're representing an organization that has pretty much stabbed you in the back.
Yeah. And again, wants to continue using it. Well, okay. Look, the IOC, right? International organization, it's not the International Olympic Committee. It's the International Organization of Corruption. Look at the coverage of, these women are fined because they're not wearing something revealing enough.
Right. Yes.
These women are fined for wearing something too revealing. It's like, guys, put it back in your pants and relax. Right. No, there is a portion, and we know this, we don't want to talk about it. There's a portion of viewership that is delighted that they can get everything streaming because that means that they can masturbate to it whenever they want. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, don't but come on. Let's not pretend I said anything revolutionary there.
No, I get
We
you.
all know,
It's
there
true.
are some people.
I just don't like to think about it.
No.
But fact is fact.
But the IOC certainly does.
Yeah.
And to an extent is catering to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things they're selling. I woke up this morning and there was a story, and I can't remember her name, but another one of the American women had won gold this morning in gymnastics, I believe.
Oh, Sunisa Lee. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm dying to talk about her. Oh my gosh.
Right. There is no I in team, right? Again, it's not, some fat ass son of a bitch being like, oh, quitter and they need to power through it. It's like, you have no idea. The only person who would say that is somebody who has never been a professional who works with their body. Mm-hmm. There are no professional athletes at the elite level who are not playing through pain. Doesn't matter what the sport is.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. There are no professional dancers who are not dancing through pain. Right. It's just, it doesn't happen.
It's part of it.
Exactly. And, I wouldn't want to ask how many times you or your colleagues or your students have had, tournament exhibition where somebody, you got to tape up the ankle and go out there and do it.
Yep. The show must go on.
Right. And at a certain point, there is also the level of you cannot go on.
Correct.
Right. Correct. If you have an ear infection, a butterfly kick becomes something that can critically injure you.
Yes. Yes.
Right? If you lose your spatial awareness and go down on that wrong, you're fracturing your leg at the knee or breaking a neck.
Yes, the neck.
So the implication that they're not tough enough, right? That they're not willing to sacrifice and to say they're at the damn Olympics. I
know. Well,
they didn't just walk in.
Yeah, it's infuriating though, also because it's like, well, if she had broken her ankle, they would have been like, oh, she can't go on. But because she said she had a mental health moment, like, I'm like, do you know what it's real thing? It's not a real thing. But also, do you know what it's like to vault and have to do 2.5 to 3.5 twists in the air and the danger that is involved with that? Not saying basketball isn't dangerous, right?
No. But again, it's not a question. It's not a question. Yeah, it's not a question of needing. It's not a question of going like for like. It's not. Right. There is no equivalency here, and we shouldn't fall into that trap, right? I mean, both of my kids did gymnastics for several years, and it was terrifying. Right. I can't watch.
Because when they go upside down, you're like, yeah.
I can't watch the high dive.
Okay.
I can't watch the high dive competition because I once saw a high dive competition where the diver caught the board after doing the flip and broke their neck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The danger in these things, I'm a huge soccer guy. Christensen collapsed in the first game, in Denmark's first game during the Euros. His heart literally was like, nah, we're done on the pitch. All right. The bodies are under stress. The head and heart have to be working together. All right. And anybody who has done any repetitive task knows the experience of that moment when you forget how to do the thing you're doing. You are thinking about it too much. there was a piece on NPR where they were talking about what it means to have the twisties.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And not incidentally, right? Season premiere of Ted Lasso talks about the yips.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait though.
You'll see it, and there's a causality there.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Twisties goes to yips.
Yes.
I am hoping, as with all things, that this leads to good things, right? That it and I will be surprised, honestly, because the predominant response here has been good for them and supportive, right? That has been the overwhelming response. That allows more people to be able to take that step as well if needed, when needed.
Yes.
So
yeah, and that's the key, and that's part of the reason I'm always trying to share and overshare in like my little small slice of the world. Like if it's one person that kind of it resonates with and it will help, like it's okay to go to therapy, or it's okay to have vulnerabilities, and it's okay to like not always feel great about your body, and like those are normal things, and we are all in it together. Like and just seeing what they have done for the world, but for just so many people, it's just so inspiring. But yes, Sunisa Lee, I'm super psyched about, and, devastated for Simone Biles and what she's going through, but the camaraderie and just seeing how supportive she is of her teammate. And then, Suni's story is amazing too, because she's from this, culture of the Hmong Americans who of course have suffered a lot of trials, and like her, it was just really beautiful because it's like her father built her beam for her when they had no money, and like you're just hearing all this amazing stuff, and then he fell and was paralyzed in 2019, and so it's just like seeing him so happy when she won this morning was just like, you kind of feel like, okay, this is something positive. And it's so rare I get nuggets of positive in these daily briefings that I kind of try to catch, that I was just like reveling in that this morning. I was like, oh my God, I was almost in tears. I was so happy.
I mean, it's nice when you don't have to search out the nugget.
Right.
It's nice when you wake up and there it is for you.
Yes. I was like, oh my gosh, there's something. I was like screaming in the house, like I'd won the lotto.
That's great.
Like,
though.
I needed that, right? You just need these things, but you totally didn't let me down with the whole like talking about the Olympic Committee and just network and all of that, making money off of the Olympics, because it always comes back down to the money and how they covered up something as horrible as, the molestation and rape of children at the end of the day because of the money, right? I mean, why else would they do that? And it's just, it's just when you dig a little deeper and you read more about Simone's experience, but also like her dealing with the committee and USA Gymnastics, I am like infuriated. So I have to go back and watch Suni Lee's like win and her parents yelling. It's like, but it's like, I want to know what's going on. And, I knew you would bring that up, being at the end of the day, that's all that ever matters.
Here we are. We're back to greed.
And everything gets thrown out the window. Like it just doesn't even matter. All these young girls, like that's fine because we're making a lot of money off of them. And it's okay.
Because people are cheaper. You can always get more people.
Yeah.
You can always get more people. Yeah.
I think about it all the time when we talk about your book research and all the sex trafficking and how dark that was, and how at the end of the day, that's humanity, and that's the darker side of which I always like to choose not to believe exists, but it's unfortunately there.
It exists, but it's not our natural state.
Yeah.
It's learned. I mean, the older I get, the more I think that we are I don't know the neurobiology of it, but we are kind of hardwired to be social creatures. And if we're hardwired to be social creatures, then we are sort of requisitely hardwired to be empathetic. And it takes effort to break people of that, to put them into a situation where they don't want to think about other people as people. And the scope and scale affects that, right? It is certainly easier for me to, talk about you and Oscar, your family, as individuals and as human beings, than it is for me to talk about the city of Chicago, right?
Right.
Or people living in Saigon. The scale becomes too big. But the instinct and the urge for most of us is that, so if something horrible happens in Saigon, we don't go, oh, well, we do take a pause, right? We do feel something, that we are able to acknowledge the tragedy, if not on the full emotional impact of us having lost somebody next to us, at least on that we understand the emotional impact,
right,
through the intellectual. It takes effort to go big deal. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. You have to have you some people are wired for whatever reason, that they're not going to respond to it. But I think for the most part, the people who really are that callous were taught that and reinforced it. Tucker Carlson is an expert at it. DeSantis is an expert at it. Trump is an expert at it.
Yeah.
And you see, the testimony of these officers, yeah. But what they're describing is that, what was the quote of one of them saying? These are people who are identifying themselves as Christians. Right?
Yeah.
There to murder me. And it's appalling. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want us to end on a particularly down note. We should have another conversation where we can talk about, voter suppression and real concerns for the next election cycle and what it's going to mean for 24.
Yeah.
And
I'm definitely concerned.
Well, and you should be, because the quote has been said multiple times, but every failed coup is a dress rehearsal for a successful one. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the
retweeting Robert Reich on that whole, remember Hitler didn't win, and then 10 years later he came back, and then that happened.
The Republicans here absolutely are doing everything they can to make sure it'll happen. And I do not see the mechanisms in place to prevent it from happening. Mm-hmm. We have talked about the fact that we have been in a cold civil war for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. It'll go hot in my lifetime.
Yeah. I know you said this was our little reprieve because we knew we had this 4 years, but what does that really mean? And it's so hard because we're trying to focus on now, but then we want to be preventive for the disaster that lies ahead. I mean, maybe the world will be on fire and blow up by then anyway, because at the rate we're going, it's just out of control. So you said it was really hot again there today.
Yeah, not nearly as as bad as the heat dome event.
Oh my gosh, that was insane.
Well, it's particularly bad because the Pacific Northwest is not known for its air conditioning.
Yes, I know. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, this is not good. It
was pretty dire. I'm not gonna lie about that. That was pretty rough. To have days of 116 degrees in houses that are built to retain heat.
Right.
And there was really no escape. I ended up going up to the Bendises because they had central air with Dashville at one point. They were quite literally like, come up and sit here.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my and it was like, okay, we'll do that.
You're like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do that.
Yeah, it's unbearable. It could be, yes. I mean, I can't imagine because I wasn't that hot here, but like when the hurricanes came, we were out of electricity for a week and we were like, didn't have a generator at the time. It's just like, oh, we'll deal. And I was fine. But day 3 of that heat, it was pretty miserable. So, I mean, like, and that's when I was like, well, I can't complain because Puerto Rico hasn't had, electricity for like a year. So I was like kind of in my moment, but it's people don't really understand what that heat can really do to you when it's just like stifling.
Yeah. And there's no escaping it.
Yeah. And there's no escaping it.
Literally no escaping it. It's, so yeah, it was not, meat starts cooking at 115 degrees. So,
you're like,
it was hot enough that we were cooking.
Right. Oh gosh.
And
crazy.
I mean, and it's bad when the dog is just like, I'm not doing I'm not moving.
Yeah.
Right. And that was sort of the biggest sign that things had gotten better was when Marla was like, I love you again.
Right.
It's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Marlo had the energy to love again.
That was exactly it. But it was like, baby, drink something, do something. We were freezing water bottles and literally like putting them under a mat for her to lie on.
Right. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, she's called that fur.
Yes. And she's a black furred dog. So it's like, well, this was the wrong coat color.
Well, you didn't expect that weather.
It was not.
It's not like
it
you
was
moved
not
to Texas with it.
It was not a choice we were even considering when we met her.
Right.
We were just like, oh my God, look at you! You're adorable. I love you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, so to end on a good note, Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso is back. Yeah.
Did you watch any of Mythic Quest?
No, haven't watched it yet. Haven't watched For All Mankind. Haven't watched. I'm Oz. Oz, who's a dear friend and handles he's moderator on the Discord and he runs the social media account for Lazarus, and so came out for a week and we caught up on Bad Batch.
Okay.
I watched Nobody.
I haven't seen that.
It's the Bob Odenkirk movie. It's written by Derek Kolstad, the same guy who wrote John Wick. Okay. And I love Wick, and I loved Wick 2.
Yes, we had a whole podcast on that, I remember.
Yeah. And
then now I'm like,
did not love Wick 3.
Yeah, I was like, Greg always changes things for me after we talk. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, it's POV. This is similarly, a setup of ostensibly mediocre middle-aged white guy turns out to be, super lethal guy.
Okay.
But that's not meant as disparaging at all. It's no, I mean, it's just there's a place for that entertainment.
Of course.
The problem isn't with that entertainment. The problem is that entertainment hasn't been provided to others. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's like the white male power fantasy is a well-documented one. It's perfectly fair. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's see the Asian female power fantasy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely know what you mean.
but so that said, I really liked it. And
what we need are writers to write these stories for us.
They're out there. More of them will get there. This one's very good. I'm just
staring at my favorite one right now. That's the thing.
Yeah, but your favorite one is also a white middle class, a mediocre white middle class guy, right? So
well, we could, I could collaborate with you on this. I can't write, but I can talk a lot.
How do you know you can't write?
Okay. Well, okay.
All right.
I'll send you something and you'll go, oh yeah, she can't write.
Okay. We'll take it from there.
All right.
But I'm not, don't, as my late father would have said, practice prior restraint.
Got it. Well, great advice.
So it is great advice. It took me years and years to actually understand fully what he meant by it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But it is great advice.
Yeah.
Do not practice prior restraints. And it's like, okay. All right. I get it. Good rules.
Very good rules. And that
so, all right.
Good.
So I should watch Mythic Quest because Troutman was endorsing it as well.
Yes. And so like at first you're like, okay, it's kind of fun. It's kind of like Schitt's Creek. Like I was like, okay, but then I've watched the whole thing now and it's so endearing. And so you just have to at least do season 1 to the quarantine episode. And then at that point, but remember I told you because of the whole Nebula thing, I thought was really funny. And it's just, being that you're nominated and all now, like you can relate, but it's endearing and it really grows on you. And especially because you're into gaming, I think you understand that world even more so. I think if anyone works in gaming, they probably love the show.
That's what Troutman was saying.
Yeah.
Having lived for a while in that sphere.
Yes, for sure. But obviously, Ted Lasso is still dear to our hearts, and I can't wait to start this season. But I wanted it to kind of.
I love the season premiere.
Oh my gosh.
Though they were going to really, really, really have to screw things up for me not to.
Exactly. It's true. They'd have to just like kill everyone off or something.
Yeah. I mean, really, they would have had to say, it's now about serial murderers. And I'd be like, what?
Exactly. Well, there's few pleasures in life with, that really give you these moments. And like I said, that's why I ran around the house like crazy this morning when, Suni Lee took the gold. And
exactly. You got to embrace it when you got it.
Yes, exactly. Yes. So that is advice to listeners. Embrace the happy.
Yeah.
They're fleeting.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, there is no difficulty going out and finding in the world the unhappy. It is delivered gift wrapped to our door constantly.
Yes.
It is not a bad idea to every so often look at cat videos. You know what I mean?
Yes. The Discord is great for that in their little awe section.
Yeah, the awe section is very nice.
Yeah, I frequent that one.
Yeah, good.
So that makes me happy. As do talking to you, Greg. So
well, we should actually try to do this a little more frequently.
Yes, yes. I will keep hounding you. I'm like, it's time.
Well, no, let's plan for the next one right now, so all your viewers will know what to expect.
Okay, you tell me.
I'm serious. I'm opening my calendar. Right. I have today's the 29th.
It's like a quarantine flashback where you're like, well, I'll be here every week. I'm like, don't say that to me.
I've missed talking to you. So this is good.
How about the 12th?
We will do it on the 12th. Yeah, I'll have to set a time because we're going to have Jen's dad coming to visit.
Oh, okay.
But I'm not sure what time he gets in.
Okay.
So
all good. Either the 12th or the 19th we can do. So whichever.
No, I want to do the 12th.
Okay.
Let's do the 12th.
Sounds good.
We're doing the 12th.
We're doing the 12th, everyone.
It's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
And that way, ideally, right, you'll have, there'll be Risen 6 will have maybe dropped.
No, I think it's on the 18th. Well, you could also just send it to me early.
I could send you the PDF because then the issue will drop after.
Because we'll talk about it and then that podcast
send me the reminder and I'll send you the PDF.
It's being sent right now, sir.
All righty.
All right, everybody. Greg Rucka. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.